Hey guys, Ryan here, and today we are here for a very special episode of Running with the Pack because I got the chance this week to sit down and do an interview with NASCAR Truck Series driver Stephen Mallozzi, driver of the number 2 Rayum Brothers racing truck. He's also driven a number of different truck numbers for them, but we had a very good conversation earlier this week, and figured you guys would love to hear it. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get right into the interview. So I am joined here with NASCAR Truck Series driver Stephen Mallozzi. Yeah, welcome to the show. Welcome
Hey
on
man,
in.
thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So yeah, So getting into kind of some of the first things I wanted to talk to you about was basically just getting, since a lot of my viewers potentially haven't heard of you or haven't potentially seen you in too many of the truck races. I figure we go ahead and talk about some of your background, your early days of the go karting.
Yeah. When I was a kid growing up, I did indoor rental go-karting, like literally the stuff you go buy and pay to do.
Yep.
Um, and I didn't really start that until I was 9 years old, maybe 10. And I literally did that for years, like three, maybe 4 seasons of like just racing year round at an indoor rental go-kart track. My dad would take me on a Wednesday night, drop me off and leave me there the entire night for like the $50. They had like a $50 unlimited racing deal. Um, and I would literally just race all night long by myself. And like I was like 11. Um, so I got really, really good at indoor rental go-kart racing, obviously.
Yep.
As one would if you spent that much time doing it. Um, and finally my dad got bored, was like, let's go do some competitive karting. So we went to a track in upstate New York, or mid, it's not really upstate, it's more central New York. It's in the Adirondacks Mountains
Yeah.
called
Anything other than the city is basically upstate New
yeah,
York.
yeah, right. It's called Oakland Valley Race Park.
All
Uh
right.
OVRP for short. And we did some competitive kart racing testing, and then we bought a competitive go-kart. And those things are crazy. A lot of people don't even know what those are, but they're open wheeled. They'll do, 90 miles an hour in the upper classes, right? 80, 90 miles an hour.
Yep.
Um, there's no seat belts because if you flip, they want you to fall out instead of roll because your head is the highest thing in them.
Yep.
They're crazy. They're awesome. They're a ton of fun.
Yeah,
And
I've
it's a
gotten to see a
serious
couple of
business.
local go kart races up here as well. So, yep.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen some of those things.
and even the local stuff is a serious business. So there's a whole national scene to that kind of stuff that expands as you progress through the ranks, and we did that for a few years. And at one point, I was a runner-up national champion, and I was flown out to Portugal to race overseas in Europe for what is considered the Olympics of karting. I don't know why there are balloons that just popped up on my Zoom. That was crazy. But in the Olympics of karting, which is like, it's 400 drivers from 50 something different countries, and it's a huge event. Um,
Yep.
and then, after that, I retired for a little bit after that, until I ended up coming back to pursue stock car racing.
Yeah, so I assume that most of your karting then, especially like those indoor karting places, are always kind of road course based. So, yeah, I assume the overseas stuff in Portugal with road courses too,
Oh yeah. Yep.
because
Yep.
because
They're not
yeah,
even
that was one of
local.
the
It's
things.
funny. It's
Because
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say
yeah,
it's the opposite. Um, we specify when a track is a road course. In karting, usually you specify when a track is an oval,
yeah,
right? So
because
like we
both the
don't.
karting tracks up here are both ovals. So,
Yeah.
all right, but yeah, so then obviously you took your time away from the sport for what was it, about 5 years? I think I read in some of the
Five
stuff that I
years.
was reading, getting ready for this. So
Yep.
yeah, and then obviously you made your return at Mid Ohio with what, as far as I could tell, was your kind of best run in the NASCAR ladder, at least in terms of the actual NASCAR trucks.
Yeah, yeah. I would say so the 5 year hiatus was because I was a kid, right? And I'm very vocal on social media about paid drivers because it's all
Yep.
about money these days. But when you're a kid, who else is going to pay for your racing, right? But my dad and I did the racing that we did do on an extreme budget for the
Yep.
most part. And even that is a relative term. I am not from like a poor family. I'm from a fairly well-off family, right? But not from NASCAR money. Not from
Yeah.
my dad owns a multi-billion dollar business and or runs a multi-million dollar business and I can just write a check and go drive whenever I want. Um, but when he got sick, our financial situation changed drastically. So the first thing to go was obviously racing because that's an
Yeah.
unnecessary expense.
Yep.
5 years go by, maybe four, and he comes into my room and is like, I'm upset because all this NASCAR news in Daytona is coming out about 2021.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Yep.
damn, I feel like I should, if my life had gone the way I'd hoped it had, at this point I'd be racing in Daytona or something like that.
Yep.
Um, and I was kind of an an asshole about it, for lack of a better term, to my family. And my dad walks in my room and asks me what my problem is, and I explain the whole thing to him, and he's like, let me tell you something, kid. If I had treated my cancer the way you treated racing, I would have died 5 effing years ago. And turns around and walks out, says nothing else to me for a few days. So I started emailing a bunch of team owners, and eventually I connected with the 76ers commentator, the basketball team, the Philadelphia
Yep.
76ers, who works for NBC,
All
who
right.
connected me with Michael Carey, who is now still working in NASCAR today, who connected me with eventually what ended up being Josh Ryome. And I moved down about 2 weeks later to work for Josh Ryome unpaid for a summer. I did some late model races, and then Josh helped me figure out how to get approved to do the truck race at Mid-Ohio. Um, it's crazy. I think our best run was probably Pocono, like not by finishing position, but by
Yeah.
racing, right? Pocono, we finished 24th. We ran inside the top 15 at a couple different points. Um,
Yeah. Which year was that? Because I think there were a couple of different Pocono races I
a
kind of
lot of
circled.
three, yeah.
Yeah.
This was at 23 Pocono.
Okay. 23
Um,
Pocono. Yeah. I was busy doing something that day, so I didn't get to watch that race. But I remember seeing you in the 2024 Pocono race, I think it
yeah.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've
Last year's.
we've been mired with issues in my racing career. A
Yeah.
lot of mechanical problems. I think we've only ever had four races without a mechanical problem out of my 10 starts. So
Yep.
more than half we end up DNFing due to mechanical.
Yeah,
But
I know the last two races, the earlier this year, the last two races were both mechanical issue in the first like 10, 15 laps.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So yeah, our Pocono run that we Mid Ohio, we were just like a lost puppy. Like it was a grind, man. I had to learn a ton of stuff. Like for example, if you've never driven a road course stock car, you don't really have to know how to downshift aggressively that often. Because in an oval, there's not really an oval in short track racing locally where you're downshifting every lap pretty much, because usually it's geared out in half mile or less ovals or 3/8 of a mile oval.
Yeah, where you usually
Um,
just get up to gear, four or whatever, and just kind of ride in fourth gear.
yeah, yeah, and you only really ever have to downshift under a caution or come into pit road or whatever.
Yeah, restarts.
Yeah, exactly. But road courses, Mid Ohio, you're shifting a crap ton, like a
Yep.
lot of times every lap. So we were, and, obviously we're not racing for for front row or Tricon. We're
Yeah, you're
racing.
not racing for a contender for a
Yeah,
race
yeah.
winning contender at
And
least.
and and in 2022, RBR was, and don't like I also work for RBR. RBR is my home. It's my family,
Yep.
right? But in 2022, RBR was even further off than it is now, right? Like our stuff's getting better as the years go on, and but in 2022 it was true back marker equipment. Like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
there.
working off of basically a shoestring type budget.
And 22nd was actually, I think, the best finish. It was like the third best finish the 43 truck had all year, right? and
Yep.
maybe the best finish it had in the entire second half of the season. So we were really proud of that run, but it was a messy run. It took a lot, and we were actually running 17th, I think, on right before the white flag lap, and we got sent off the racetrack by our teammate who was 32 laps down. So that was really something special there. That was
Yep.
I was pissed because I should have had a 17th place there, but you know, it it's how it goes sometimes. So
Yeah, and then obviously, as we've kind of talked about, you then raced a few other races on basically a part-time schedule.
yeah,
Yeah, Pocono being one of the ones that you've raced most often, being kind of your home track with New Jersey as your home, right?
yeah.
So, I was kind of curious as to if the plan was to try and get back in there for more of the road courses, since that seemed to be what you had the potential success with, or if running ovals was intentional to try and better yourself on oval racing.
I would love to do another road course. The problem is they're more expensive usually because um
Yeah, specialized equipment.
and riskier.
Yeah,
Specialized equipment because they're not common. People always get sent home at road courses, right? So you risk spending all that money to not even race.
yeah,
And
because there's more road runners that come out of the woodworks.
and that's also why they're more expensive, right? Because you have people who are looking to either get approved to continue racing in NASCAR or people who have the money to do one-off starts because they're road course ringers who fill up the seats and drive up the price. So usually my thing is look for the races that are cheap because those
Yep.
are the ones that I can figure out a way to do.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, got to figure out the ones that are, and obviously, yeah, you want to balance both being able to race on the budget and still being able to race in a situation where you feel like you can actually be competitive. 'Cause I'm sure
Yeah.
that's at least part of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah. All right. So, yeah, and then kind of one of the last couple of questions that I had were kind of
Sure.
looking to the future as to, if you have any more starts that you know or that you can announce as of right now, because like I know you're kind of on a week to week basis as to
Yeah.
whether or not you're racing.
Yeah. Nothing that I can announce, but some exciting things in the works.
All right.
And one I can talk about a little more openly is like I'm looking obviously to do Pocono, and I have some things that work for Pocono. Uh,
Yep.
home race, it's just what I want to do every year.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have another dark horse that is closer to being done, that I can't really talk about.
Yeah. Obviously, sometimes you just can't talk about it
Yeah.
quite yet. So I
Yep.
understand if future plans aren't the most available. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then one of the other bullet points I had was the more road courses, but we kind of already talked about. You'd do them if they were cheaper.
Yep. Yep. I would love to do it if they were cheaper.
Yeah, and then one of the other things that I saw when kind of doing some research before this one is that you've also been going to law school and working as a
Yeah.
law clerk in your downtime. And how do you manage to balance that along with the between the racing schedule and working with the race team as well?
That's a great
Because
question. Not a lot of sleep, a lot of
yep,
work. Um, it's right, going to law school in its own right is a full-time job, right? You throw in driving a race car or working for RBR or anything else, any of the other 10 endeavors that I end up having. And it's not easy. It's tough to figure it out. It all comes down to really good time management. And at the end of the day, that's I guess that's a pretty generic answer, but that's the truth, right? It's all about making sure that you manage your time in a way that's productive.
yep, yeah. I mean, time management obviously it's a big thing for almost anybody to have a good work life balance, but especially when you're trying to balance two or really three jobs when it comes to driving the race car, working at the race shop, and then the law school stuff too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So yeah, those are most of the things I kind of had bulleted out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing as you progress throughout your career. Would love to potentially have you back on at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Um,
Hopefully next time I'll have bigger news for you to share.
yeah. Well, say, and maybe I'll even get to see you race in person. I don't think I've been at any of the races that you've been at in person, but I will be at both the truck race in New Hampshire, which I'm
Okay.
so excited they added
Okay.
trucks back to New Hampshire.
Yeah,
And then
that'd be a good one.
I'm doing that and the Bristol weekend back to back, so that's gonna be a busy week.
Yeah, New Hampshire will be fun. New
So
Hampshire will be fun.
yeah, all right. Well, thank you for giving us a bit of your time here tonight, and yeah, thank you for coming on to introduce yourself to the fans. Looking
Yes,
forward to
sir.
seeing you on the track.
Ryan, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
All right, just wanted to say a very massive thank you to Stephen Mallozzi for being willing to come on the channel and tell us just a little bit about his story as he's come through the ranks from go-karting to racing in Europe to now in the NASCAR Truck Series for the Rayum brothers. Look forward to seeing him on the track later this summer, but until next time, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. Subscribe if you guys are new so you guys don't miss any future videos or live streams. And yeah, I will see you guys next video. Live stream, whatever you guys decide to do the rest of your night. Have a great night, everybody, and goodbye!